What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here. I am sporting my Sixers shirt, and many of you Eagles fans are probably Sixers fans just like me, tuning into this video after you watched the Sixers fail to clinch Game 6. My microphone broke, the Sixers lost. It's been a disaster day. So let's get into something that brings us hope and brings us joy. And that's the Eagles. That's Eagles football. And that's the schedule being released. Let's look at this schedule. Let's see, we're going to pile up some wins this year. I actually, for the team that has the highest strength of schedule in the league, I like how the schedule played out. So let's get into it to cheer ourselves up. We're not that far away from football season. It'll be all right. It's always all right. There's always sunlight the day after a miserable Philly sports loss. We'll get through this together. Before we get into the schedule and take a look at what weeks, make sure to like and subscribe. Kevin and I guessed each of the games, tried to predict the schedule. We actually got a fair amount of them right, or at least got the angles right in terms of why they should be slotted in this week and why that is, why they're playing on the road versus why they're playing at home. So we did a pretty good job with that. And we'll have a lot more content coming even through the summer months. You know, it's kind of dead during that time, but we always make it happen. We're going to get back into interviews and it should be a good time. So without further ado, let's get into this Eagle schedule. I find this to be just, if you're going to have the toughest strength of schedule, this is how I would like it to play out. So I have a few things locked into my mind of what I saw here when I'm just raw reaction and share it with everybody and see if everybody feels the same. We'll start at the top. The first half of this schedule is easily winnable. This could be another 8-0 season. You know, going into that Monday Night Football game against Taylor Heineke and the Commanders, we're undefeated 8-0 and just saying to ourselves, I'm glad this happened now. We got a loss out of the way. And we were like, a loss out of the way. What are we talking about? And then it actually just propelled the team forward and we got right back to winning after that game where everything went wrong. I see a similar trajectory here. Let's start at the top. They play on the road. They're playing the Patriots week 1. It'll be Tom Brady's ceremony. It's a 4:25 game. I said that to Kevin the other night. I just said, it just feels like a Jim Nantz, Tony Romo kind of game. If you are scared of this moment with a Tom Brady ceremony and playing in Foxborough week 1, if you're scared of Mac Jones, no, this is not the video for you. This is not the fan base for you. If you have a problem with this and you're scared of this moment, stop. Just stop. Because you got to get off the bandwagon now. If this is what's scaring you, you can't be in. I love the way that this plays out. That does not scare me. I will take my chances with Jalen Hurts versus Mac Jones every single day. The Thursday game being week 2, I love because it's like you get that Thursday night game out of the way early, and you have Monday Night Football on the road the following week. So even though you have the short week early, you finally get a Thursday home game, which you haven't had very often. It feels like they're always playing Thursday on the road. And then you have an 11-day rest before you go onto the road again to come back home and play the Washington Commanders, who we assume of the 4 teams in the NFC East feel like the weakest link right now, and that's your first quarter of the season. So you get plenty of rest, even with a short week, 2 home games. It just feels balanced, and it feels like you're not facing a ton of tests during that time. You're getting a Kirk Cousins primetime game. You're getting the Commanders as your first NFC East opponent. The Buccaneers seem to be in a rebuild. You're going to get them on Monday Night Football on 11 days rest. That is fine with me for that quarter. And you take a look at the next quarter, the Rams probably are another team that could be in a rebuild. You have the Commanders there in week 8. Week 6 and 7, again, I know people are like, oh, the Jets, like this could be tough. It's a 4:25 game, so another primetime game at the Jets. It's Aaron Rodgers. This franchise has never lost to the New York Jets. Never. Ever, ever, ever. It has never happened in history of football. If you are scared of this moment, you got to be a bit off the bandwagon. I'm sorry. If these are the moments that are scaring you, you can't be in. So, again, I expect the Jets to be good. I expect the Dolphins to be good. But it doesn't scare me that much. I'm sorry. Like, it's just not doing too much for me. I think the fact that it's a Sunday Night Football game against the Dolphins is awesome. Like October 22nd, hopefully the Phillies are still playing. We have a nice little NLCS game. Then we watched the Birds on Sunday Night Football. Like, I feel like that's a cool moment. How often have we seen them on Sunday Night Football? Last time that happened, I think I was about 6 years old, and we won in Miami. So the first quarter of this schedule is easily winnable for a team that was projected to have the toughest schedule in the league. Now, Here's where it gets interesting. Obviously, week 9 is what it's all about. Another 425 game. It's going to be home versus the Cowboys. I'm sure we'll do 72 interviews during the week on this show leading up to that one. The bye week, week 10, when we predicted the schedule, I predicted that one as the week 10 bye. I am so excited about that because it's placed right in the middle of your schedule. Teams love that. It's tough when you have it early in the weeks 4 or 5, and then you have to play like 14 straight games. That really wears on a team, bad for injuries. Put it right smack dab there in the middle in week 10. Love that. Perfect. All right. On to Murderers Row. This is where the hardest schedule in the league comes into play. It's the parody of the NFL. It's why we love it. It's why everybody has a chance for the most part. It is because if you finish in first place, you play a first place schedule. And with the 17 games, we're playing the first place team in the AFC West this year. Who would that be? Well, it'd be the Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. We're playing the AFC East this year. Who won it last year? All right. You're playing the Bills. All right. You go to the NFC West. You're playing the first place team out there. Who was that? That was the San Francisco 49ers. And then you finish with your division rival, the Dallas Cowboys, week 14. So you have a 4-game stretch of Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, Cowboys. It does not get tougher than that. Every single team on that list won double-digit game last year. That is a litmus test. I love that the bye's in week 10, and then you go into that. It's like, all right, the first 9 weeks, if everything goes according to plan, injuries always play a factor. If they do not, you look at those first 9 weeks, everything feels manageable. You should be in a good place. You go into the bye week, and then you come out swinging in 4 incredibly tough games. A lot of prime time. Again, Monday Night Football against Kansas City. You have 425 back-to-back games against the Bills and the 49ers. Everybody's signing up for these marquee matchups, NFC Championship rematch. And then you got Sunday Night Football again, which always happens against the Cowboys on the road. You want to go, like, I just feel like I've changed my mindset with a team where a lot of people are going to say, oh, you got to go 2-2 during that tough stretch. If they went 3-1, it wouldn't shock me. Again, we just need to play the games and make sure injuries don't occur. But it just feels like reasonable to suggest that this team is mentally tough enough to win those games, especially with 2 of them being at home. The 49ers game, we'll just touch on it. I know we've done a ton on this show because it's just good for content. It really doesn't bother me anymore because I'm just kind of looking at. Have you ever seen that meme from The Simpsons where he's just looking down and he just says pathetic? That's just how I felt about the 49ers recently and the way they've whined and cried about how that NFC Championship went. So we've talked about them a lot, but that's more for content purposes. They don't bother me. They were getting their ass kicked one way or another in that NFC Championship. I was going back and watching some of that game. Brock Purdy did get knocked out of that game with an injury because he didn't block Hassan Reddick. There was a play later in that quarter where they tried to block Reddick with a wide receiver, and he sacks Josh Johnson, and it was almost a strip sack. They were completely outmatched. They were outcoached. They lost the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I need this win as validation that they did not stand a chance last year. I don't even know who their quarterback will be at that point on December 3rd. It might be Trey Lance. It might be Brock Purdy. Again, neither of those people really scare me. I just need this win to prove to them and validate to everybody that this wasn't some lucky thing where Brock Purdy woke up, slipped getting out of the shower, and sprained his ankle and couldn't play. He couldn't play because you got manhandled at the line of scrimmage and your scheme involved a backup tight end blocking one of the league leaders in sacks. We went right down the field and scored on you, and on the first possession knocked your quarterback out of the game on a strip sack. This was always going to happen, and I'm glad we're getting this rematch in December. Kyle Shanahan said, well, I'm happy that we all have our quarterback and everything situated by then. Me too. Can't wait. See you there. And then at the end of the schedule, travel-wise, these are the games where you're like, looking on paper, if this were Madden, you say, all right, well, that's a win. Like, the Seahawks are good, but we've a better roster than they do. Going at Dallas, Sunday Night Football, and then turning around and having to go at Seattle, a place that we have always struggled. I don't think we've ever won at CenturyLink Stadium. I could be wrong on that. Somebody fact check me, but I'm pretty sure we've never won against the Seahawks up there with the 12th man. I'm just thinking back in my head. We haven't had a ton of success against the Seahawks to begin with. We've never beaten Russell Wilson and when he was a member of the Seahawks. So this past decade, I don't think we've beaten the Seahawks once, home or away. And we definitely haven't beat them away for sure. So that's a game where you're like, on paper, you should win, but factor in everything else like travel and things like that. Not as likely. But the last 3 games here, I feel like are very manageable. The New York Giants, who we beat 3 times, it wasn't even close for those games, just completely dominated them last year. You expect them to be a little bit better? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I still don't know where we stand on the Giants. They re-signed some people, but was that a good thing? We'll see. And then this, to me, I'm circling this, and if my wildest dreams come true, the Eagles, it's New Year's Eve. All right, picture this. New Year's Eve, you're a Philadelphia resident. The next day, the streets are going to be shut down. We got 2 Street, everybody going around for the mummers. Everybody's drunk, having a good time. But New Year's, we have a game against the Cardinals. We're down there. We're tailgating. It's a holiday. The Eagles have a chance to clinch the division. They do it against the Cardinals. They do it against Jonathan Gannon. They run up the score 20-0 on the Cardinals in the first quarter, just like we did in the Super Bowl season. You clinch. Everybody gets a hat. Let's go party. Let's count down. Let's kiss somebody at midnight. Let's have a ball. Jonathan Gannon, see ya. I hope you don't get Caleb Williams. That's my dream. I think that's in a very manageable week 16 through 18 where you go through this gauntlet of travel, tough teams, all these things. And it's like, all right, well, beat like a pretty solid division opponent and beat the Cardinals, who are probably going to be in a tank mode. That's it. So all in all, again, I really like the schedule. It's tough because of the teams that you're playing, but I feel like all those tough games are clumped together and the other ones don't scare me much. I think they did the Eagles a lot of favors early in the season, getting a Thursday night football game out of the way early. It's at home, and then having 11 days rest after that to recover before you play a road game and then go into some opponents who we don't know where they're going to be at talent-wise, including the Rams. So I feel like this first half of the schedule, I'm like, yeah, this is a nice little bounce back from the Super Bowl loss. I don't know if there'll be a Super Bowl hangover here. Again, it all comes down to injuries, so we'll see there. But we'll see. I'd love to know how everybody else feels. I kind of like 4 o'clock games. I love the primetime moments. The schedule is loaded with 4 o'clock, 8:20 games instead of I think we have 3 1 p.m. games total. So I'd love to know how everybody feels about that and how you plan your Sunday. And it's odd. It's almost like we're a West Coast team now with the amount of primetime 4 o'clock games that we're playing. So that's just an interesting schedule thing. It doesn't really bother me one way or another. I got to wake up and go to work at 8 a.m. the next day, whether they play 1, 4, or 8. Doesn't really matter to me. So a lot of primetime, a lot of good matchups. I'm really excited for this. And I think all things considered, this played out really well for the Eagles. So we'll be back. We'll be talking schedule. We'll be talking our teams. The draft is done. Schedule's done. We kind of have a layout and a baseline of how this season will go. Kevin and I will get into it. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, let's see if the Sixers can close this out. If not, I might be doing win-losses on the Eagles schedule all summer long.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone. If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach. That is
the team you promised me you were going to be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.